Franchise owners exploited bread so full of sugar it's legally considered cake, and meat that contains only 50% of what it claims to be. Subway has been exposed for some of the most shocking controversies in fast food history.
You're getting what you asked for. Well, 2 customers at Subway say there wasn't tuna in their tuna sandwich, and they are suing the sandwich shop.
From immigrant franchisees trapped in financial nightmares to restaurants shut down over serious health violations, it seems the Eat Fresh slogan couldn't be further from the truth. But how did one of the world's largest restaurant chains go from a health-focused alternative to fast food to a company plagued by lawsuits and scandals? Let's go back to where it all started. The rise Subway began as a small sandwich shop in 1965 when Fred DeLuca borrowed $1,000 from a family friend, Dr. Peter Buck, to open Pete's Super Submarines in Connecticut. The business grew steadily, and by the 1980s, DeLuca had developed a franchise model that would transform his small operation into a global giant. The appeal was simple: lower startup costs than other fast food chains and a menu marketed as fresher and healthier than burger-focused competitors. The real explosion in Subway's growth came in the late 1990s and early 2000s with the introduction of their most famous spokesperson, Jared Fogle. As the story went, Jared lost over 200 pounds eating Subway sandwiches, and his before and after transformation became the centerpiece of Subway's marketing. The Subway diet took America by storm, positioning the chain as the health-conscious alternative to traditional fast food. Sales surged, and by the early 2010s, Subway had more locations worldwide than McDonald's. But this remarkable growth came with a business strategy that would later come back to haunt both the company and its franchisees. Unlike other chains that carefully planned store locations, Subway adopted an aggressive expansion model with virtually no territorial protections. Their goal was simple: open as many locations as possible, as quickly as possible. This approach would eventually create a serious problem for store owners, but more on that in a moment. The controversies begin. The foot-long controversy, 2013. The first major crack in Subway's wholesome image appeared in 2013, when an Australian customer posted a photo of his foot-long sandwich measuring just 11 inches. What seemed like a minor complaint quickly went viral. Customers around the world began measuring their sandwiches and posting photos of subs falling short of the promised 12 inches. It wasn't long before a class action lawsuit followed, and testing revealed that nearly 80% of footlongs were under 12 inches, with some as short as 11. Subway's defense: they claimed footlong was simply a marketing term, not a literal measurement. This sparked some serious backlash from critics who argued that if footlong was flexible, then what did fresh really mean? By 2016, Subway settled the lawsuit, agreeing to implement quality control measures across its franchises and adding disclaimers stating sandwich sizes could vary due to the baking process. But they stopped short of guaranteeing every footlong would actually measure a foot. This controversy did more than generate jokes and memes. It was the first time many consumers began questioning Subway's marketing claims, and it wouldn't be the last. The Jared Fogle scandal, 2015. But if you thought the footlong controversy was damaging, what happened in 2015 was devastating. After over 15 years as the face of Subway, Jared Fogle, the man whose weight loss story had helped transform Subway into a global powerhouse, was arrested on CP charges and for unspeakable things. Subway immediately cut all ties with him, but the damage was done. For more than a decade, Fogle had been front and center in Subway's marketing, appearing in over 300 commercials and thousands of public appearances. The public couldn't easily separate Subway from its longtime spokesman. Even more troubling were the reports suggesting there may have been warnings about Fogle's behavior years before his arrest. A former Subway franchisee claimed she had reported concerns about Fogle to corporate headquarters as early as 2008, but her warnings were allegedly ignored. Whether or not the company had prior knowledge, the scandal left a lasting stain on the brand that no amount of advertising could fully erase. Franchise troubles begin 2015 to 2018. Around the same time as the Fogle scandal, Subway's franchise model began showing serious cracks. Between 2015 and 2018, over 2,000 Subway locations permanently closed in the US alone. The primary reason? Oversaturation. Subway's expansion strategy had placed stores so close together that they began cannibalizing each other's sales. It was normal to find multiple Subway locations within blocks of each other, all competing for the same limited customer base. Franchise owners who had invested their life savings suddenly found themselves struggling to break even. But the problems went deeper than just store placement. Franchisees began speaking out about Subway's business practices, including mandatory promotion pricing that cut into already thin profit margins and requirements to purchase supplies exclusively from Subway-approved vendors, very often at inflated prices. The major downfall: ingredient controversies, 2019 to 2020. As franchise owners struggled with the business model, Subway's ingredients came under scrutiny. In 2019, a Canadian study revealed that Subway's chicken strips contained only about 50% chicken DNA, with the rest made up of soy protein and other fillers. When consumers order chicken, shouldn't they expect, well, mostly chicken? Oh, and it gets worse. In 2020, Ireland's Supreme Court delivered a bombshell ruling. Subway's bread contains so much sugar, it doesn't even legally qualify as bread under Irish tax law. The court found that the sugar content in Subway's bread was 5 times higher than what's allowed for a staple food, classifying it instead as a confectionery product, basically calling it cake. Even varieties marketed as wholesome, like the 9-grain wheat, contained surprisingly high amounts of sugar. Around the same time, Subway was forced to remove azotocarbonamide from its bread, a chemical also used in yoga mats and shoe soles. Only after public outrage did the chain quietly phase out this ingredient, without fully addressing why their bread recipe required an industrial dough conditioner in the first place. The tuna controversy? 2021. Just when consumers were digesting the news about Subway's bread and chicken, another ingredient came under fire. In 2021, a lawsuit filed in California claimed that Subway's tuna sandwiches contained no actual tuna DNA. Lab tests commissioned by the New York Times couldn't detect a trace of it in samples from 3 different Subway locations. Subway defended itself by stating that the cooking process breaks down the tuna's DNA, making it undetectable in tests. While technically plausible, the controversy left many customers wondering what exactly they were eating. The lawsuit went through several amendments, and the legal battle continued into 2022 and beyond. Immigrant franchisee exploitation, 2021 to 2022. While ingredient controversies were making headlines, a more troubling story was developing behind the scenes. In 2021, immigrant franchisees came forward with lawsuits alleging they were specifically targeted and exploited by Subway. These franchisees claimed they were lured into contracts they couldn't escape, then charged inflated prices for required supplies and given little corporate support. Many alleged they were threatened with loss of their businesses if they complained or didn't comply with corporate demands. For immigrants who had invested their life savings into what they believed was the American dream, these Subway franchises often became financial nightmares. The lawsuits revealed that in 2022, a typical Subway franchisee was making just $35,000 per year after expenses, far less than most store managers at competing chains. Yet they remained trapped in contracts that were nearly impossible to exit without losing everything. Health violations and worker treatment, 2023 to 2024. By 2023, as franchise owners struggled to stay profitable, cutting corners became inevitable for many. Health inspections across the country revealed alarming patterns of violations. In Sacramento, California, a Subway was forced to close after inspectors discovered cockroaches in the kitchen. In Florida, another location was shut down when rodent droppings were found scattered around food preparation areas. These weren't isolated incidents. Former employees began speaking out about practices they'd witnessed: moldy vegetables being served to customers, food kept at unsafe temperatures, and cross-contamination between raw meats and vegetables. Many reported that when stores got tipped off about upcoming inspections, there would be a mad scramble to clean up, only for the same unsafe practices to start up again once inspectors left. The pressure to cut costs also fell heavily on workers. In 2024, multiple lawsuits emerged alleging wage theft and labor violations. Workers described being left to run entire stores alone, handling everything from food prep to cash registers without breaks. In California, one franchise owner faced legal action for failing to pay overtime and denying workers their legally mandated sick days. That same year, Subway franchises agreed to settle a lawsuit filed by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission over racial discrimination. The case accused store managers of refusing to hire black employees and creating a hostile work environment, resulting in a $25,000 settlement. The corporate control tightens. 2024. In August 2024, Subway demonstrated just how little control franchisees had over their own businesses. Corporate headquarters suddenly announced that all locations had to stop selling Coca-Cola products and switch to Pepsi. Franchise owners had no say in the matter. They were simply told to deal with it or risk losing their stores. For many owners, this wasn't just about changing soda brands. In some regions, Coca-Cola products were significant sellers, and being forced to switch meant potentially losing loyal customers. Despite protests from the franchisees, Subway's corporate HQ made it clear, when it comes to big decisions, their bottom line matters more than store owners' input or customer preferences. Strategic store placement, 2024. Beyond product decisions, Subway's strategy for store placement also raised concerns. A 2024 UK study revealed that Subway, along with other fast food chains, was increasingly opening locations near schools. The pattern was pretty clear. Restaurants were strategically placed to capture the youth market, making it easy for students to grab fast food during and after school hours. While it seemed smart from a business perspective, public health advocates criticized this approach as undermining efforts to improve youth nutrition. In communities where healthy food options were already limited, Subway's strategic placement near schools made processed foods more accessible than nutritious alternatives. Where does Subway stand today? The ongoing franchise crisis, 2024 to present. By 2024, the situation for Subway franchisees had become dire. A report by the New York Post revealed franchisees were paying up to 50% more for basic ingredients like tomatoes, with no option to source them elsewhere. Between 2015 and 2024, over 5,000 Subway locations had permanently closed, a crazy number even for a massive chain like Subway. Despite these closures, Subway continues to collect royalties from remaining stores. While franchisees struggle with rising costs and declining sales, the corporate structure ensures that Subway itself remains profitable through fees and supply markups. Consumer trust at a crossroads today, Subway stands at a crossroads. The chain that built its empire on promises of freshness, value, and health has seen its reputation severely damaged by years of controversies. From questionable ingredients to exploitative business practices, health code violations to legal battles, Subway's story has become a cautionary tale about fast food marketing versus reality. For consumers, the decision to eat at Subway is no longer just about convenience or taste. It's about whether they can trust what's behind the counter. It's about whether they want to support a business model that many claim exploits both workers and franchise owners. Subway built its empire on promises of freshness, value, and trust. But when you peel back the layers, whether it's the sugar-laden bread, the questionable meat, the exploitation of workers and franchisees, or the health code violations, a very different picture emerges. The next time you find yourself standing in front of that familiar menu, ask yourself, is this really the meal you thought it was? Because behind every sandwich, there's a story. And in Subway's case, that story might leave you with a lot more to digest than you bargained for. So before you step into Subway again, ask yourself, is supporting this business worth it? Or are there local sandwich shops that deserve your money more?